And even CEOs, I just learned this from a great lawyer by the name of Ben Glass, and he's got a great business and he's got a number of different other businesses. And he made this statement that is phenomenal, that has stuck with me, that I heard 2 weeks ago. And he said, the number one executive perk that is requested, besides the basics, right? Healthcare, that type of thing. The number one executive perk that is requested in all major executive contracts is coaching. Number one. And I'm like, well, there's something there, isn't that?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just let that sink in for a little bit. So if the top CEOs in the world, are focusing on getting coaches, why shouldn't you, as the founder, focus on having a coach?
Welcome back to a special episode of the Cold Start Project. I'm here with my friend Nick Loise, founder of salesperformanceteam.com. You can go check that website out. He wanted to come back on, and I agreed. I wanted him on because we need to have a serious chat with some founders out there and give you the down low on what's really important and what could mess you up. Now, if you don't know Nick here, he was the president of Glazer Kennedy, Dan Kennedy's company, which is a great marketing organization, for 8 years, a long time. And before that, one of the roles that he had was managing a division of a hospital with a ridiculous budget, like $97 million. I'm not even making this up. Like, it's a huge number. So he ain't playing at the shallow end of the pool. So what we wanted to cover today is a little mindset stuff, I guess, for entrepreneurs, and see if we might be able to help. So Nick, thanks for being here.
Jason, thank you. You're always a gentleman and a scholar, and I learn so much whenever I listen to your shows. They are fascinating, and I learn so much just whenever I have a conversation with you. So thanks for having me on today.
All right. So let's jump right into this. What is the biggest need that most entrepreneurs desire?
Well, so they desire results, right? They desire results. They desire revenue. They desire freedom. They desire a stress-free life, unlimited financing. That's the end product that they all want. But they have to figure out how to get there, right? And I think the biggest issue that most entrepreneurs have, and you work with a lot of founders, you work with a lot of startups, but you work with a lot of late-stage capital people, this, is what I learned from somebody that we both know, the terminology founder whiplash, right? So they just kind of get spun out. They go all over. They're chasing bright, shiny objects. They go to an event. They go to a webinar. They do something, and therefore they lose their focus. And so what they all need is that maniacal person, mentor, shouldn't be somebody on staff, that could hold them accountable and move them through a series of achievements and how to get through obstacles each and every day, each and every week, each and every month.
Wow, Nick, we just jumped through a whole bunch of hoops there. Okay, so I ought to back up a little bit.
That luggage for me?
So, yeah, exactly. So wait a minute. So you've seen inside a ton of businesses. So have I. Between the two of us, we've probably seen just about everything under the sun, from factories to info marketers to coaches to technical, specialists and that kind of thing. So that they want that freedom, and they want that blank check to go do whatever they want. But on the other hand, in order to get there, they have to do the F word, focus. I like that you brought up our mutual friend Jeremy there with the founder whiplash thing, and that focus problem, when they lose focus. And folks, you're a founder, probably. If you're listening, you tell me, right? Ask yourself, isn't this the case, that you lose focus, you miss opportunities? So what causes them to lose focus, Nick?
I think it's a thousand things, and you could probably answer this equally as well as I do. But I think it's the desire for something else, right? Because what I have, I love, it drives me, but I'm maybe a little bored with it. So the new shiny object, right? The new toy syndrome. We're humans, we're mammals, we're innate. We still revert back to kind of who we were growing up. And so we always want something new, or so-and-so has something, so therefore I want that. I think that's it in its core. The other thing I think it is in its core, and I mean, no disrespect to anybody listening or entrepreneurs, is there's probably a level of insecurity.
Hmm.
And there's probably a level of, I'm not 100% sure that this is really going to take off as well as I've sold myself and others on it. And therefore, I need something that I think really might take off or could take off or should take off. And that's something else.
Hmm.
But really, what you and I both know and what I see is the person that has a plan, that has a determined, dogmatic, focused plan, that has somebody that helps them keep themselves objectively focused on maniacal completion of tasks and KPIs, achievement of KPIs, and all that, is the person that succeeds.
Hmm.
And many of the most successful, things, businesses out there are similar to, Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, right? They may not be sexy. You're in a sexy space, right? But it's really the execution of, the boring stuff. We're in the middle of, while this is airing, we're in the middle of college football season, right? I love Vince Lombardi. Gentlemen, this is a football, right? Holds up the football. And then, we're gonna run 6 plays, but we're gonna run them better than anybody else. Now, certainly schemes have gotten bigger than this, but it's just the execution of it. It's the execution of, is my sales force executing on a daily basis, right? And to what extent, and how long is things sitting in the pipeline? You know this, Jason, better than I, because you've done this work. How's my marketing? Is it working each and every day? What's my expectation of how many leads are coming in? Where are we at with our minimally viable product, or if we have products in the marketplace, where are we at with all that stuff? And what am I doing to make yesterday better than today, and vice versa, today better than yesterday, and moving towards my KPIs, which I'm sure everybody knows, but just in case, key performance indicators.
Right. And folks, sometimes I'm hired to be that guy. And sometimes I hire coaches all the time to keep me on track, because I'm no exemption. I'm just as human, unfortunately, as the next guy. I do stuff, and I have great talks with other founders, and I decide, yep, I'm going to go do this now or something like that, right? And then 2 weeks later, I meet up with that person again, and I have forgotten what we talked about, and I've gotten involved in the firefighting, the day-to-day firefighting of this business, right? And without somebody to keep my nose to the grindstone on the growth that make today better than yesterday kind of thing, make tomorrow better than today, I will stumble. So I agree that this is definitely needed.
It's interesting that you say that, and the best really invest in coaches, right? And the best really invest in somebody to help move them through. And I think you have to make that emotional, but also that financial investment, because I learned this from somebody that I just did a project with. It, what we pay for is what we pay attention to. And you can't do it with, like you said, you can't do it with the buddy that you go have a cigar and a scotch with, or a cigar and a coffee with, or you have breakfast every Saturday with, because there's that intimacy of friendship, but there's not that intimacy of accountability, where if you have a third party that you are paying to keep you accountable and get you the results that you want, then that's really going to drive you. And all the best entrepreneurs, small business owners, whatever terminology we use to call ourselves, they make that investment. I myself make that investment. I have one now currently. And I've done a series of entrepreneurial small business interviews. So I know enough to say that the important thing that you need is to have that coach to keep you accountable, to check in, whether it's a monthly check-in, a weekly check-in, a quarterly check-in, whatever the time frame that you guys agree is. But I also know that the best entrepreneurs that get the most results, that get to that constantly are achieving what they want to achieve, Jason, are those that have coaches, some way, shape, or form. And even CEOs. I just learned this from a great, great lawyer by the name of Ben Glass, and he's got a great business, and he's got a number of different other businesses. And he made this statement that is phenomenal, that has stuck with me, that I heard 2 weeks ago. And he said, the number one executive perk that is requested, besides the basics, right? Healthcare, that type of thing. The number one executive perk that is requested in all major executive contracts is coaching. Number one. And I'm like, well, there's something there, isn't there? You know, and let's just let that sink in for a little bit. So if the top CEOs in the world, you know, are focusing on getting coaches, why shouldn't you as the founder focus on having a coach? Why shouldn't you as the CEO of the organization focus on having a coach? There's a phenomenal book out, and I'm going to get the person's name wrong, but it's called, I believe, The $1 Trillion Coach. And it's the person that, he was a new entry on, he was been on Silicon Valley forever, right? And he, in essence, was the coach behind all of these phenomenal founders. And he was the person that distilled this knowledge that I have, the need for the coach. So he kept them accountable, he kept them moving through. And so, you know, I highly recommend any founder go get a coach, but two, look at that book if you don't believe me. Because if you want, as a founder or a small business person, if you want to be in the ranks of the Googles of the world, the Apples of the world, the Microsofts of the world, the Hewlett Packards of the world, and we could go on with that list, just reverse engineer what made the CEO successful. He had a coach.
Excellent. Well, say someone's listening to this or watching this, and they're like, okay, well, that's great, Nick, Jason, thanks a lot. Who do I trust? How do I know to trust them? And what can I do next?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing you have to say is, do I feel comfortable with this person? Two is, the next thing you have to say is, do they have have they been time tested, right? True tested, right? They've been in the trenches. Have they, you know, a lot of people are look good, but really, do they speak the language, and do they have the results, and have they been in the trenches themselves? Have they been, you know, do they invest in coaches themselves? You know, and so that's the first thing that I would look at, right? Finding the right person for me. If I was in this space, I would reach out to Jason. If I was in other spaces, I would, you know, reach out to me, or vice versa. So I think that's the first thing you got to look at. The second thing you got to look at is, what is their motivation, right? What drives them? Is their motivation solely to see me grow and to see my organization grow? Then absolutely. You know, then now those are the first two boxes that you check.
Okay. So resonance and looking out for you over themselves. Okay. And so let's say somebody is listening, watching, and they're resonating, and they're like, yeah, this sounds kind of cool. What can they do? Where could they go?
Yeah, great question. So I, in most cases, know most of the coaches out there, most of the business executive coaches, because it's my business, right? We sell for a lot of the coaches, so I know most of them. You can reach out to me, right? You can reach out, Nick, at salesperformanceteam.com. It'd be a good place to start. Got kind of a questionnaire that we could have of what you should ask a coach. If you have an interest in that, if you want to be coached by one of our folks, we could provide that for you. You give me a call at 847-720-4264, 847-720-4264, or just email me, you know, real quick, or connect me on LinkedIn, right? And then we could start the message. Facebook, whatever the methodology is, we'll find a way to communicate.
Okay, excellent, Nick. Well, I'm glad we had the chance to do this. I think something you brought up near the beginning about that anxiety that founders often feel, that they're not quite good enough, that, oh, gee, there's got to be a slightly more certain way, right? If only I had that roadmap out for me, that a coach can kind of help you patch up and get you back out there on the road that you should be on. the one that you really started out with, and to get through doing those things that you know you need to do to get to the end result. I think this is a great place to start. So I'll post your number and your email address there in the description below for anybody who wants that. Any final thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. I do. I have something that's critical. I just thought of it. But it's always at the top of my mind. Just last weekend, I was with my mentor, who I got to work with, Dan Kennedy, who is the godfather of the information marketing business and one of the greatest minds in marketing. And he always instilled that you have to understand the three conversations that anybody is having, and a great coach understands the three conversations that anybody's having. The first one in business, the conversation could be what he has across the desk with his partners, or what he has across the desk with his employees. So what is that conversation? The second conversation is, what does he have at home with his wife, right? And you got to know that conversation to help move that entrepreneur, or vice versa, with what she has with her her spouse. And then the final conversation is what they have with themselves at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's really when they're talking to themselves. And a coach will help you through all of that, and that's what you got to look for.
Excellent. Well, great final thought there. My guest has been Nick Loise, founder of salesperformanceteam.com. If any of this has resonated with you, I highly recommend you reach out and see where it takes you. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, Jason, thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in this with Cold Start Technologies. It's fascinating to see your growth, and fascinating to see all the great people you bring to have conversations with. I get smarter